Ma'am, we are all set. The recording is also started in YouTube.
Thank you.
Wait.
Sir, good afternoon. Dr. Kotu, it is 2. Can we start, sir? I see that Mr. Suresh Samuel has joined. He's here.
Exactly 2 o'clock now. Mahalakshmi.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Uma will go ahead, Uma.
Yes,
Let's
ma'am.
start. Yeah.
A very warm good afternoon to one and all. I, Dr. Uma, Associate Professor, Department of Pathology, I, Dr. Uma, Associate Professor, Department of Pathology, member of MEU, take the pleasure to welcome you all on behalf of our ICON team to this national conference on innovations in health profession education on theme Authentic Learning Environment, Bridging the Theory Practice Gap. I also welcome Vice Chancellor Dr. A.S. Ganesan, Madam Chancellor Dr. Anuradha Ganesan, and also a warm welcome to Member Board of Management, Mr. Suresh Samuel, sir, and also to all the heads of the institution, MEU coordinators, participants, delegates across India and foreign delegates, students, sponsors, and other representatives. Greatness is not where we stand, but in what direction we are moving. Medical education is not just a program for building knowledge and skills in its recipients. It is also an experience which creates attitudes and expectations. Let's start this event with the blessings from the Almighty. Now, I request our beloved Dean Sir, Professor P.F. Kotur, who is constant source of support in all the events, to bestow the opening remarks to the gathering. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Uma. I, as the head of the institution of Arpadividi Medical College of Vinayaka Mission Research Foundation, deemed university, am indeed honored to welcome all the resource persons and the participants from across the country for this National Conference on Innovations in Health Profession Education, organized by the vibrant team of the Medical Education Unit of our called AVMC. And I acknowledge the presence of our esteemed member of the Board of Management, Dr. Mr. Suresh Samuel, and amongst the audience we have my good friend, Dr. Jyoti Nagmati, who was the chairperson of the Department of Health Profession Education of Care University, now presently the controller of examinations, and the other heads of the institutions, heads of the departments, and the participants. I'm indeed happy on this occasion, the first time the National Conference on Medical Education is being held here at AVMC. And on behalf of our Honorable Chancellor and the university, I welcome you all. And certainly, I don't like to miss to share a couple of thoughts to justify this conference. Now, we are all amidst reforms and reformations, those have been happening in health profession education across the country, across the globe. And this environment of education was superimposed, or rather complicated, rather devastated by the pandemic, ongoing pandemic. It is not at war. So this educational environment got disturbed along with so many n number of other things. And the onus of responsibility on the educators during such a critical moment to keep the education ongoing, so that no life is ruined, was the motto. So that is one background. This medical education conference has created this medical education unit, has created this platform to share the information from various experts, their expertise in their focused area on this platform. And we have the experts from, of course, our own man, Dr. Seturaman sir, who is very well over here, former Vice Chancellor of Balaji Vidyapeeth, and the pioneer of medical education in the country when he was in JIPMER, long innings in JIPMER. We have the other resource persons from Gujarat, Dr. Amol Dongre. We have Balakrishnan from Singapore. We have a doyen of medical education, Dr. Anand Krishnan, as a resource person over here, apart from the participants from various states. Apart from that, second justification what I like to give for this conference is, this November 11th is National Education Day, as being celebrated all across the country for the more than almost 10 years here in India. Of course, as per the mandate of the University Grant Commission, to commemorate the birth anniversary of the great son of India, Dr. Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad, who was the first education minister of India, an author, a teacher, a philosopher, and a reformist, who was instrumental in establishing so many regulating bodies and institutes of excellences. He was as the educational minister of free independent India. He realized, or he got convinced, that only through the path of education the country can be built. So he took an initiative. He was an education minister for nearly 8 years. He took initiatives of establishing the regulating body of the higher education institution across the country, nothing else other than the University Grant Commission. And he was instrumental in IITs, he was instrumental in development of Indian Institute of Science, so many other things. It's the greatest tribute the AVMC joins in conducting this conference on to commemorate that. Of course, November 11th, we could not do anything because we had a little disturbed or devastated by the heavy rain. And we had, in fact, yesterday celebrated National Education Day also. This is, I consider, as one of the tributes for this cause of education during this critical period of time. So I once again take this opportunity to welcome you all, and I'm sure that today and tomorrow, the next 1.5 day, there will be fruitful deliberation, and something useful for all of us is going to evolve from this deliberations. Thank you, one and all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for those inductive and kind words. Now, I request our Dean, Health Profession Education, Dr. V.N. Mahalakshmi, who always uplifts us to explore more and more in the field of education, to introduce us to the theme of the ICON 2021. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Uma. Hi, friends. It is nice to meet you all, though virtually, after a long time. I'm seeing a lot of new friends as well as old. And I acknowledge the presence of Mr. Suresh Samwell, our member of Board of Management, our mentor, Professor KRS sir, our Dean, and our Vishnu Bhatt sir, and also the other resource persons, Dr. Jyoti, Dr. Shitesh Ghosh. So everyone, welcome to ICON. Just a few words about how we came about with this theme, and I also want to say a few words about our team. So that is what I do. This COVID had been a very defining moment, right? We had it was very disruptive, and we were forced to change the way we do a lot of things, especially in education. So this has happened. It gave us an opportunity for tremendous professional development, personal capacity building, and also has shown us how the future of education is going to be. If not totally online mode, it is going to be a blended mode, which has come to stay. So that is there. So this has developed a lot of opportunities for us. But at the same time, we found that this has also exposed the inequalities between the technically competent and not, inequalities between access to internet, access to resources. So those are also the issues which came. So one thing which has happened is we made this transition to this virtual environment. But what we have ended up doing is only adding one word virtual in front of our classroom. Have we really explored the potential of the medium which is available? That is a question we need to ask ourselves, and how we can actually deliver very engaging lessons, engaging learning experiences for students. Despite all these things, is going to be the challenge. And we thought if we cannot answer who is the best, we need to go to the stakeholders. We need to ask the students, what do they do? That's why we conducted this national essay competition to find out what is the views of the students. And we were amazed by the range of uh, emotions and range of ideas they have expressed in their essays. We were amazed by the number of papers which were received for this conference. So many people have shared their innovations. We received almost 50 abstracts for innovations presentations. That was good. Then we also were we are very happy to get eminent resource persons, right, who can tell us more about this authentic learning environment, how this can be especially useful in online environment, and how to bridge the theory practice gap which exists in our society. So that is how this conference came about. And this is, if I can say, that it has almost been a dream for all our MEU members. So who had been waiting from 2019 December, we are planning a conference. So that is how we were able to come up with this. And I also have to introduce our team, that is Team MEU AVMC. When we planned this conference, Professor KRS will be very happy to note we had a very horizontal organizational structure. We had teams for everything, team finance, team scientific, team abstract. So that's how we went about. So it's a very flat organizational structure where everybody contributes. All of us know the acronym for team, right? That together everybody achieves more. But our MEU team stands for other acronyms also, right? They are exceptional teachers, they are educators, academicians, and most important, they motivate people. And the way they work, right? Together we made a lot of efforts to make sure that this conference happens. And we are very happy to note that we have 275 participants. We have participants from foreign countries, that is Malaysia, Saudi Arabia, Sri Lanka, and Singapore. We also have out of participants from our VMRF institutions, 51 in number, and we have close to 200 and odd participants from other institutions across India. So that is ICON 2021, and the encouragement and the participation shown by the people across the country, the medical education units and their coordinators, plus the encouragement from our management and the support provided by the sponsors have actually motivated a lot to keep this icon going. Thank you very much. Over to you, Uma. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for giving us the journey, how we went through, and for making the happening of ICON 2021 a great success. We hope so. And for also giving us what lies ahead. I'm sure that all the delegates are going to have a wonderful time on this authentic learning environment. Now, I kindly request Mr. Suresh Samuel, Member Board of Management, to do the souvenir release to the esteemed audience, to our esteemed audience. Sir, please kindly do the needful.
Thank you, Dr. Uma. Good afternoon, all of you. I take pleasure in releasing this souvenir for this national conference in innovation in health professionals education.
This is the conference abstract book, proceedings, our team MEU, this program schedule. We have a write-up about our MEU and all the interesting activities we do in our MEU for the postgraduates, faculties, and students. We have the messages from our Honorable Chancellor, our Director, Mr. Suresh Samuel, who is there gracing this occasion, and words of wisdom from our Dean and Dr. Vishnu Bhatt. We have the abstracts of the invited talks, starting with Professor K.R. Sivaraman's invited keynote. We have Dr. Sanjeev Luin, Dr. Dongre, Dr. Ashoka from Singapore, and Dr. This thing. We have the judges for the award paper session, Professor Sitesh Ghosh, Dr. Deepthi, and Dr. Prasad from Devrajur's Medical Academy. We have the chairpersons for the free paper sessions. We have the list of selected abstracts. We have put the criteria for awarding this. And also we have the students' essays, the selected essays. We thank our judges who did a wonderful job of going through all the 70 odd student essays and picking up the ones. We had done a thematic analysis of the essays, so that's there for you. And these are the award winning essays. And the nice thing to note is the award is won by 2 students of first MBBS. From the student is from ESI Medical College, Chennai. This is the second one. And we also share some resources for CBME, Digital Innovations by Elsevier, Holter, and also by Academ. Thank you very much. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Mahalakshmi. Distinguished research and resource personalities, participants, faculty, students from various medical colleges across India, dear faculty and students from Arubadevidi Medical College, AVMC, Puducherry. It's my pleasure to give few thoughts with regard to the innovation through digital healthcare transformation, what we are seeing in the current era. Let me first start with digital literacy. I think this is something very important where it helps to assess, knowing how to search for, find, and access information through quality medical websites, knowing how to work with empowered patients. Most of our patients who come nowadays, particularly the current generation, you see are well connected with the internet websites. You literally call them e-patients or maybe empowered patients who know all the basic understanding with regard to the website resource material. So it is important that as the medical students and the medical fraternity, we should be aware, besides being omnipresent, the digital terrain has another persistent characteristics. It constantly changes. The doctor should develop technology skills and pay attention to the change and keep pace with the rapid development of healthcare technology transformation. If you look in terms of the next level, I would see that design thinking in the medical student is something, a new trend which is emerging. Design thinking is principle of matching users' need with what is technology feasible. For instance, if a doctor has an idea on how to improve a treatment method, a drug or patient management with the help of technology, they could make up improvisation by themselves. So do it yourselves using design thinking is something, a new concept, what we see in the Western world, particularly within the medical education. Do it yourself workshop with in the healthcare can help students get to know how to arrive from an idea to an actual solution, how to work in teams, and how to create something from scratch with digital tools. Said that, there are other trends that we also see which is happening specifically with regard to this medical education, which is digitally supported. New technologies are seen in the classroom. We see that we have digital classrooms. We are enabled with ultra digital boards, which helps in terms of more of virtual learning and also connecting across the globe, trying to collaborate with faculty, students from across the world. But the utmost importance is the familiarity of our students, medical students, with the tools that will shape the medical practices in the coming year. Artificial intelligence, virtual reality, augmented reality, 3D printing, robotics, genomic sequencing will change how we know medicine today. Moreover, the medical professionals' place in the healthcare system, as well as the whole social structure of medicine, will considerably alter soon. And without preparation, newcomers will be swept away by the waves of digital change happening in the healthcare. That's why it's crucial for the students to be abreast on the latest technologies, the new concepts in the digital healthcare space. Another interesting concept, what I also came across is gamification. Nowadays, many of the academic curriculum are being gamified, and even in medical education, gamification of processes, and some of the innovative institutions are also going in terms of gamifying the exams. It's not that memorizing information and learning from our own traditional wisdom, pearls of wisdom, are not feasible ways to get medical knowledge. But the present trend is to see and use gamification methods to make the learning process more relaxed and productive at the same time. There are many gamification-based learning materials or knowledge testing skills that we come across, which will eventually provide some breakaway from the traditional studying. Also, another concept which we are all familiar, but again, how we put in our practice in our academic curriculum, how we engage our students in terms of some of this practical sessions would also help, particularly with regard to 3D printing. In fact, the 3D printing for surgical planning and education is taking a very specific focus nowadays. 3D printing helps medical students and the outcome of complex operations, particularly challenging cases. In fact, I was reading an article where bioprinted cancer models mimic the 3D heterogeneity of real tumors. So 3D printing in medicine can be used to print organ models, which can be helpful for patient education, pre-operative planning for surgeons. We see recently 3D printing model plus MRI plus ultrasound imaging help doctors prepare for fetal surgeries. So this is the space of digital healthcare transformation that we are in. I'm very happy that AVMC is conducting this innovation in health professionals education, where we are going to discuss in detail more of these concepts, these theories and practices which are emerging in this digital world. I wish all the very best for this conference, and I thank again the AVMC team for putting together this national conference in place. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you once again, sir, for gracing this session and giving us the overview on digital tools, research, and its application in medical education and other trends. Now, I request all participants to keep their video on. We'll take a picture now. Please keep your videos on.
And the cheese, please. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank Aarti. Now coming to the end of the session, inaugural session and the beginning of the conference. Now I request Dr. B.R. Ashokan, MU coordinator, to propose the vote of thanks. Over to you, sir.
Respected chief guest of this event, Honorable Chancellor VMRF, Dr. A.S. Ganesan, respected the Director VMRF, Dr. Anuradha Ganesan, respected Dean AVMC, Dr. P.F. Kotur, Dean SPE, Dr. V.N. Mahalakshmi ma'am, Mr. Suresh Samuel sir, Member Board of Management VMRF, Professor Vishnu Bhatt, Director Medical Research AVMCH, eminent speakers of this conference and resource persons of national and international personalities, Medical Superintendent Dr. K. Jayasingh, Vice Principal for Administration, Dr. Rajan, Vice Principal for Student Affairs, Dr. Arunachalam, all the HOIs of FAHS School of Physiotherapy, as well as VMR of Nursing College, Principal, all MU faculties and the organizing team of our MU for this National Conference ICON 21, and all the participants from various states and international, also from international participants. Very good afternoon to all. First of all, I would like to thank the Almighty to run this program in the scheduled time. You know that we had government holidays the last week due to rain. Next, I express my wholehearted gratitude and thank our Chancellor, Dr. A.S. Ganesan, in spite of his busy schedule, not able to attend today, and also the Director VMR of Dr. Anuradha Ganesan for their continuous support for conducting such activities in our medical education unit of AVMC, like ICON 2021 conference by our MU AVMC. My sincere thanks to our beloved Dean, Professor P.F. Kotur, in encouraging us to do MU activities in all the ways, like administrator, MU faculty, also as a resource person. It is a boon to our college that he himself a MU PhD doctorate. Sir, we are proud of you and thank you, sir, for your continuous support. I take this opportunity to take our beloved Madam, Dean SP, ma'am, who is very dynamic, always, and enthusiastic in making efforts to put and to conduct this conference in a systematic manner from the beginning to the end, informing the information of various organizing teams, planning the meeting, reviewing the meeting, and proceeding of this conference. Thank you, ma'am. I have immense pleasure to thank all the eminent speakers of the national and international personalities, like Dr. K.R. Seduraman, Dr. Sanjay Levin, Dr. P.F. Kotur, Dr. N. Arandakrishnan, Dr. Vishnu Bhatt, Dr. Amul Dongre, and Dr. Ashok Balakrishna, Dr. V.N. Mahalashmi, and various judges from various colleges.
It's going on.
And for the free paper presentations, Professor Sitish Ghosh, Dean and Professor OBG MGMC RI, Pondicherry, Professor Deepthi Shastri, Dean, as well as the Medical Education Coordinator from Vinayaga Mission, Salem, Professor Dr. K.N.V. Prasad, Professor of Pediatrics from Srinivas Devaraj Academy of Higher Education and Research. And also for the essay competition judges, Dr. Meha Joshi, Director Medical Education, International Medical School, Management and Science University, Bangalore campus, Dr. Kavita Vasudevan, Professor and HOD, Community Medicine and MU Coordinator, IGMCRI Pondicherry, and Dr. Srinivas Pakadapalli, Professor and HOD of Pediatrics and MU Coordinator, VMMC Karaikal. In spite of their busy schedules, they accepted to be a resource person as speakers for our conference. Thank you very much, sir, all the judges, all the speakers. I also express my sincere thanks to our Medical Superintendent Dr. K. Jayasingh, Vice Principal Dr. Rajan, Administration, Vice Principal Student Affairs Dr. Arnachalam, for their continuous help to conduct this program in all the ways. I thank the dynamic organizing team of our MU who put full efforts and supports for conducting the ICON 2021 in an efficient manner. Without them, it is not possible. I thank the sponsors who made their contributions for this ICON 2021. Elsevier clinical student, Walter Gluner, CBME app, their contributions for this ICON 2021. I thank wholeheartedly the technical persons, MU clerk, Jayaganesh, the designer, George, and the other technical persons who also helped in all the ways in coming out with this conference book efficiently and nicely. Finally, I thank all, one and all, for the opportunity given to give the vote of thanks for especially to the Dean and Dean SP. Thank you one and all.
Thank you, sir, for proposing the vote of thanks. Now, before going to the session of the conference, a gentle reminder. We'll be sending the e-souvenir link to the emails of the respective participants' email. Now, let's go to the conference. The first session of the day. Now, Ole to Ale, authentic learning environment, a pathway beyond relevance. To give the keynote address on this topic, we have our beloved Professor Sethuraman sir. I know you all will agree that sir needs no introduction. We have definitely would have attended sir's FDP programs, one or the other. Sir is visiting, it's proud to tell that sir is a visiting professor of our institution. He is a doyen of health profession education. He has been a part of NTTC JIPMER for several years and also been a vice chancellor in SBB University Pondicherry. He is an advisory panel for edition in Davidson textbook. He has developed several videos and learning resource materials. He has several publications in national and international journals. Sir is presently the Dean, Faculty of Medicine and Senior Professor of Medicine, Amist University, Malaysia. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Uma, and thanks to the organizing team for inviting me one more time. In fact, before I start, I should tell a story that oftentimes when Maha goes back home on a long ride, 45-minute ride home, she sometimes calls me and we have a long chat. So one of the days she said, we are trying to plan an icon. And I asked her, what is the theme? She said, authentic learning experience. Give me a catchy subtitle. So first I said, after 2 seconds start, Ole to ALE. Then she was not very amused with that. Then I said, okay, keep it serious, bridging the theory practice gap. So that was supposed to be my talk, but since she didn't like the other one, we exchanged. My talk became her theme, and her theme, which I proposed, has become my title of my talk. So thanks, Maha, for giving me the opportunity to be an opening batter. And let me share the screen now. I hope you can see and you can listen. I am audible. Please give me feedback if there is any problem.
Yes, sir, you're audible and the screen is nicely visible, sir.
Thank you. And Ole to ALE, the pathway beyond relevance. So that is my title. And why this Ole is, instead of talking about it, I'll just show this short animated GIF. So whenever this happens, the crowd will, you see the crowd in the back, they all stand up and shout Ole in Spain. It's a Spanish exclamation of approval or encouragement, like bravo or wow in English. So therefore, it is time to applaud Indian Medical Council and NMS now, NMC, National Medical Commission, for adopting this authentic learning experience as the main focus of the new curriculum. Though it was pointed out 50 years back, in early 70s, there was a UNESCO meet, not on medical education, on higher education itself, collegiate education. And after 4 or 5 days of discussion, they distilled into just 3 deficiencies in all kinds of curricula in colleges: ancient curriculum and modern sciences. So their recommendation was revise and modernize curricula periodically, every 5 years preferably. So, and the second was benign neglect of values versus societal expectation, especially in healthcare professions. They expect us to be angels. And you know that we are not really teaching ethics or professionalism in a big way till recently. The 8Com module aims to change all that. And thirdly, also known as theory practice gap, is the gap between theory knowledge and practical skills. So they mug up the textbook and score high marks, but you put a patient in front and they don't know what to do. So they suggested at that time, adopt competency-based training. So after 50 years, at least now, better late than never, that MCI and NMC have taken it up seriously. So therefore, we have to say ole, bravo, and then support them wholeheartedly. So the rest of my talk is based on explaining why it is important and how to go about doing that. And then hope that you agree with me. And if there is a disagreement, we can discuss. There may be about 10 minutes in the end. Okay. So first, it's an interactive one. I have a 30-second poll, which you can answer 1, 2, or 3 in the chat box now. Do you feel there is a significant theory practice gap among our outgoing graduates?
Sir, many are answering 1.
Yeah, playing music for 30 seconds. Okay, so I hope you put your answer. We'll see it in the end.
Sir, you have got only one, sir. No
Only
other
one, okay,
response.
maybe, okay.
No, ma'am,
It's
there is
all
one
right.
free.
Maybe post-lunch, it is soporific already, so I'll wake them up. This poll is mainly to keep people awake. Okay. Okay, my agenda for this talk is very simple because several other speakers are going to speak later in greater detail. Reflect on the knowledge practice gap, and the role of the teachers in reducing this. Secondly, discuss the characteristics and elements of AL, ALE, and how to assess authenticity of a module or lesson that you think is quite, you want to plan in authentic mode. How do you assess that I've done a good job or not? And finally, consider authentic learning environment in the context of 5 competencies of Indian medical graduate with some examples. This is something new, which I have not done with my talks on this ALE earlier, on how to, it was mostly theoretical. So now I want to myself bridge the theory practice gap in the area of ALE. Okay. So then we move on. It is not new. This kind of UNESCO was not the first one to discover knowledge practice gap. Confucius, 2,500 years ago, has said that knowledge without practice is useless and practice without knowledge is dangerous. And 400 years back in 17th century, knowledge is a treasure, but practice is the key to that, was Thomas Fuller. So this kind of interlinking of theory and practice, and one without the other, is not very useful, was known. So now 2 slides for those who are rather beginners in terms of pedagogic knowledge. So just repeating that. Learning here is defined as desirable change in an individual, that is our students, caused by experiences that we offer them. So intentional learning is learning formally in a classroom or by self-learning. So can learning be ever unintentional? That is a question we have to ask ourselves. The answer was given by Newton. When apple fell on his head, he discovered a great discovery of gravitational force, which was not known. So many things have fallen on so many people's heads for centuries, isn't it? But it was Newton. So therefore, unintentional learning can be caused by environmental condition and real life experiences. However, it is very rare, like Newton's discovery or Fleming's discovery of penicillin. They are few and far between. More than 90% of learning needs a guru or a teacher to facilitate the process. Otherwise, it is not efficient. So therefore, our role as a teacher is to facilitate the process. And we catalyze the learning process. And how to do that is in an authentic manner is my focus for today. So then the question comes, okay, I know about learning and education and teaching now. What is authentic all about? So authentic simply means conforming to reality. The synonyms are bona fide, certifiable, genuine, adopted from Hindi. Pakka is there in English dictionary. Real, true. So authentic learning in medical or nursing or dental context, it has the same attributes conforming to the real life scenario and real life demands of the profession concerned. Whereas antonyms, bogus, counterfeit, fake, false, mock, phony, pseudo, sham, unauthentic, spurious, these are to be avoided if our aim is to offer authentic learning. Okay, so instead of defining, it's easier to talk about, show about unauthentic learning. This professor has given a detailed lecture for 1.5 hours on buoyancy of human body. And what is he expecting as outcome? Students are ready to jump into the pool and start swimming. He says, proceed. I hope there are enough lifeguards to save all these people. So this is an extreme example, but unauthentic learning is one of the major reasons for theory-practice gap. So whenever a significant chunk of our students have theory-practice gap when they exit internship, then the responsibility is on the university and the teachers concerned that we are teaching a lot of theory and perhaps not enough skills that they really need. So how can enlightened educators like the crowd assembled here catalyze authentic learning experiences? How do we do that? So there are 3 important starting points. First of all, enlightened educators should realize the main goal. What is the main goal of teaching anatomy or obstetrics and gynae or any other subject, medicine? Is to produce Indian medical graduate with competence. So that is the goal. In fact, in program educational objective, that's what is stated. For example, in Malaysia, PEO program, we start a curriculum submission with this thing. Our graduates going out of AIMS University, after 5 years of passing MBBS from our Faculty of Medicine, will be able to do the following. We have to give the list of what they are supposed to be able to do with competence. So program educational objective is a very good starting point because what the program prepares the graduates for in their career and professional life. So IMG is beautifully summarized into 5 components now. Clinician, they have to be competent clinicians, empathic leader, effective communicator, and professional with ethical values, and a lifelong learner, so that they are updated in skills all the time. So that beautifully summarizes this main goal. So whenever we teach whatever subject it is, anatomy to the final one, ONG, we have to think of what our graduates should be able to do with what I teach. That mindset has to change. So then the second, that leads on logically to the second one, that we need to prioritize and select what subject and what skills to be taught. Because in undergraduate, it's not possible to teach all that a postgraduate level anatomist or a biochemist or a physician knows. We have to just impart essential skills to be a clinician, communicator, ethical professional, team leader, and lifelong learner. And to be that, what should they must know, value, and do? What is desirable for them to know, value, and do? what is nice for them to know, value and do. So this way you trifurcate the curriculum and allot weightages accordingly. And more about this later, how to go about, there is not much how to go about doing, but Miller has written 50 years back that I'll talk about it later. And third role is facilitate authentic learning in a ALE, authentic learning environment. So are we doing it now? So let us see whether more people are awake now. Please enter in the chat box 1 yes, 2 no, 3 not sure. So okay, thank you. So we go ahead.
Sir, you have equal mix of 1s, 2s and 3s.
Okay. Good. So it is only to elicit opinion. They are free to change the opinion later. And so now I come to the topic, justifying my title. Authentic curriculum goes beyond relevance. So that is, authentic curriculum is just not relevant curriculum. It is more than that. Relevance is, of course, number 1. Number 2 is scope. Third is coherence, and fourth is proximity, and fifth is feasibility. So 1 and 5 is easy to understand. These two are easy to understand. 2, 3 and 4 need a little explanation. Anyway, I'll go one at a time. And relevance. What are the factors influencing relevance? Needs analysis. When you do needs analysis, what should a IMG be able to do 5 years after graduation? That gives the relevance part. And the relevance is of 2 types. One is they have to pass the exam to be doctor, otherwise they can't practice. So immediate needs is relevance for passing the examination. And long-term needs is how to function effectively as an IMG with those 5 attributes. Okay, we have to think of both immediate need and long-term need. Breadth versus depth is the scope, because undergraduate curriculum, we cannot go in depth. So we have to cover superficially broad areas, in depth only very important areas which are important for the must-know area. Then specific versus broad, the skills, which are some are specific, some are broad. So we have to decide. Then coherence is within the subject. Like physiology, what they teach throughout this 1 year of study and across the subjects. The cell cycle taught by anatomy, by physiology and biochemistry must conform so that they are coherent. But if they are dissonant or non-conforming, then students get confused. So it becomes incoherent. So content sequencing is very important, and from year 1 to year 5 also, so that it's coherent. Preclinical, paraclinical, clinical. Proximity, external. This is similar somewhat to relevance. How close is the MBBS curriculum that, let's say, AVMC has to the practice that the student will be doing as a graduate later? Then internal proximity is there. This is depending on the learner's maturity, whether it is appropriate to the learner's ability. Supposing it's a slow achiever, then proximity should be adjusted accordingly. And proximity for a first year is different from proximity for a postgraduate student. Finally, the feasibility depends on the 4M, curricular minutes, curricular learning materials and resources, of course the funds, and woman and manpower for teaching and for human resources. So this is the way of analyzing curricular authenticity. Does it have relevance? Does it have scope? Does it have coherence? Does it have proximity? And whatever we plan, is it feasible to deliver? Okay, so I hope you agree with that analysis. Now we go on to why not use, some people have asked me, why not simply say classroom? Why you are saying this learning environment and all complicated words? That is because learning can occur in diverse physical location, not just in lecture halls. Now we see online, they are sitting in kitchen and learning. And so diverse contexts and diverse cultures in which students learn. And therefore, learning environment is more accurate than classroom. That is one aspect. I've given the reference for more details. And depending on the focus of the learning environment, the types, there are 4 types: knowledge-centered, assessment, learner, and community-centered foci. And each learning environment has a unique focus and elements. So just give one example each. Knowledge-centered is traditional classroom. Lecturer comes and then elaborates on a topic, and then knowledge is the focus. Assessment-centered is, best example is exam coaching centers, which are plenty in India. NEET coaching center, IIT coaching center, and all that. And it's become a parallel universe, parallel curricula now in India and many other nations. Learner-centered is special schools for the challenged, autistic, or other physically challenged people, or slow learners. Last is community, which is learning community, collaborative learning. So this diagram shows that all the 3 occurs. It is learner-centered, knowledge-centered, assessment-centered, but it happens in a learning community of teachers and students and others. So it is a community. Good campuses often offer this community approach to learning. Okay, so now, regardless of the type, whether it is type 1, 2, 3, or 4 of learning environment, to be positive, like contributing towards authentic learning, there are common elements. First of all, the students must feel safe. Safety is of concern. Like in USA, suddenly some fellows come with a gun and shoot down people in schools. Even day before yesterday it happened. It's a terrible situation. I don't think students will be concentrating on what the teacher says. They'll be watching the door, how to go under the desk and try to escape a bullet. So safety first. Then engaging teacher who can facilitate well. And thirdly, connected with the subject, connected with the teacher, connected with the peer group. And fourthly, supported. In case of difficulty, they are assured that I'll get support so that I can achieve. So these 4 elements can create positive learning environment. So therefore, we should consider the characteristic of learner, whether they are undergraduate, postgraduates, students needing additional curricular support, snacks, or additional psychological support, snaps, etc. The goals for teaching and learning, like IMG, was stated in very simple diagram. And the teaching learning activities that will best support authentic learning. Assessment strategies. Dr. Ananthakrishnan is going to talk about it tomorrow, so I'll just show 2 slides to introduce the concept and leave the details to him. And finally, a culture that infuses authentic learning environment. So these are the 5 elements if you want to consider positive learning and authentic learning. So let us see one by one now, a little bit of detail. So learner characteristics is adopt zone of proximal development. That means this diagram captures that what students can do independently, self-directed learning is left to them to read and come for the class, pre-reading or post-reading. What they can do only if guided is proximal development. What they can't do even if guided is out of not possible for them to do. So take them along. So when they join year 1, this black circle will be very small and there will be blue circle very small, and most of it will be this light blue outer ring. As they go to final year, slowly the inner circle will become big. And when they become postgraduates, it becomes even bigger. So teach one adjacent step at a time. What we need is teacher needs empathy. We have to wear students hat. What was my status when I did MBBS so many years ago? I must put myself in the shoes. The day I entered this cadaver lab first day, or anatomy lab, physiology lab, those days had frog dissection and all that. So how did I feel? What was my knowledge level? We must go at that level and needs empathy. So that means we have to be aware of what is called as Dunning-Kruger effect and how to overcome. So this is very important. Dunning-Kruger has two components. So I'll spend 2 minutes explaining that. So those who already know it, please tolerate repetition. Dunning-Kruger said incompetent people, students often fail to recognize and acknowledge their lack of skill and fail to recognize genuine skill in others. And teachers can also assume anyone can do the simple task. So this is called as presumptive competence. So how this happened in Japan, I had this, that time Dunning-Kruger had not given this name. That was described in 99. But I had seen this in 1987. Unfortunately, did not describe it. And student, I have told it earlier, kept the mercury column horizontal and trying to take blood pressure in final year exam. Fortunately, I was skilled assistant. I was not the examiner, so I went and helped him out. So that is a revelation to me that this fellow spent 5 years. BP recording is taught in physiology as a 2-hour afternoon lecture. Demo and lab practice. And then in the 3 years clinical, they must have taken so many BP, but this guy has never taken blood pressure. It has come to final year. That is because teachers assume anyone can record BP. Even a monkey can record BP. Many people say that. And students watch a video or watch other people taking and they think it is a very simple task I can do, but they have never done. So finally in the exam, he keeps the mercury column horizontal, not vertical. So when learners get exposed to training for that skill, on the day of exam, that man had a recognition that he moved from unconscious incompetence, that I can take BP, to conscious incompetence. Hey God, I don't know even how to take BP. So for that, the teachers have to know that the most important task in competency-based curriculum, which is essential for authentic learning, is to push the students from unconscious incompetence. They watch a video or they see YouTube or they read a theory and they think they know. You make them do ASCII, formative ASCII, then you know what they don't know. So then you push them to become conscious of their incompetence. So unconscious incompetence to conscious incompetence, first stage. Then they become novice learners. After that they learn. So this is a step where we need facilitation. To push them, you don't know how to take BP, you don't know how to measure this, you don't know how to do fundal grip, whatever. Then they become consciously competent by the time they go to final year exam and all that. Later, of course, they become expert, unconscious competence. So this is a cycle in every skill that a person is exposed to. Okay, so presumptive stage of pseudo competence is stage 1, and we have to be aware of that. Not scold them, then they will run away or become defensive. Support them, like a parent supporting, like a mother supporting their child. So this is an essential challenge. That's why I'm taking time. If you adopt competency-based curriculum and want to make authentic learning possible, how to make the horse drink water is very essential. So don't assume that learners are automatically novices wanting to learn, but assume that everybody is in an unaware stage of unconscious incompetence and they don't even know that they need to know. So if you want to reduce theory practice gap in your students, the biggest challenge is to make the students realize and push them to level of conscious incompetence. You do that and rest, the horse will drink water by itself. Second, content management for authenticity. Set priority, must know this we saw earlier. And foster authenticity. Every topic, I'll show concrete examples later. Every topic that we teach from year 1 to year final year must contribute to one of the 5 skills, one or more of the 5 skills of Indian medical graduates. Okay, so this is where Miller comes in. Miller wrote in WHO Public Health Papers Archive in 70s. You can dig it around. It is there somewhere in the back archives of WHO. Otherwise, you can ask Dr. Shivashakti. I have given a screen capture to her. She is my memory bank. She can give you. I don't know where my copy is. Miller said, must know, must do, must value is what medical MBBS graduate should possess to function independently, like managing anaphylaxis, detecting hypertension. These are essential skills for a family doctor. So it is must know, must do, must value. Desirable to know, do, value are those areas where IMG plays a significant role, but with a lot of support from other specialists, like managing chronic diseases, hypertension, diabetes, managing pregnancy, because obstetrician will take care. So this person is only family doctor giving counseling, reminding them about time for follow-up and all that. So that is desirable to know. Nice to know, do, value are those areas where IMG's role is very minimal and mostly it is specialty care, like end-stage renal disease. Identify and refer. That is all MBBS has to know. They don't have to know details of heart transplant, valve surgery, renal failure management, renal replacement therapy and all that. Options they should know, but not the details. So if you agree with the Miller and wear that cap and sit down, then you can reach consensus during MDN analysis. Otherwise, there will be a lot of uproar and demand, and you end up with a CBME curriculum with anatomy claiming 4,000 competencies. There is no way any relevant authentic learning will demand 4,000 competencies in anatomy for an MBBS graduate. You ask any IMG who has been practicing GP for 5 years, they will trim it down to about 40, I'm sure. Maybe you will end up with 100 after a little bit of negotiation. So I'm sorry to say that we are all in silos. So we should get out of the silo mode where IMG have empathy and see what MBBS graduate really needs. Okay, now the third principle to make authentic learning is TL activities. So of course, Bloom's taxonomic domain will dictate the TL activities, whether you want to go for a higher order thinking skill, HOTS, or a lower order thinking skills, LOTS. Miller's level, I will show the diagram next. Then is it relevant to your region, Pondicherry, India, and the time period in 2020? The opening address was very thing that so many new things are happening. Are we ready for 3D printing and things like that? So is it relevant to the time period? And finally, the most important question is, do the teaching learning activities facilitate application of knowledge to the IMG skills required in these 5 areas which are listed? Oh, sorry. So Miller's pyramid can be used for this also. Most of the diagrams only evaluation is shown. There are a few. You can adopt this. Read and listen for knowing. Listen and watch demo for knowing how, steps, procedural steps. Then watch and imitate to show how and perform under supervision. Practice and refine, do. And finally, be IMG is after they pass out. Mastery and lifelong learning is needed to be a competent family doctor or a competent postgraduate learner. Okay. So Miller's pyramid can be used to plan authentic experience. Fourth one is regarding assessment, often invalid and irrelevant because what is measurable easily drives out what is more important. Rene Dubos said that in the 120 years back. Sorry, not 120, in the early part of 20th century. And he also is the author of Think Globally, Act Locally. Okay, so again, unauthentic assessment is much easier to show, like this tune. Professor Confucius says Sheila is the best swimmer in the class because she has answered all the 20 MCQs in the recent test correctly. So unfortunately, another major contributor of theory-practice gap is this unauthentic assessment. And Dr. AK will talk more about it tomorrow. So I'll just show the principles, and the details and nuts and bolts will be given by him tomorrow's address. So assess ability to apply knowledge to real life situation. Assess answers from the brain and not answer more than answers from the book. Assess hands-on activities, assess competency, and assess throughout the unit of study to document growth of competencies in each learner, like a formative assessment. And Miller's prism, this is classical diagram all of you would have seen. Know-how, show, and does can be reliably and authentically assessed. Finally, the fifth one, how to infuse culture of authentic learning environment. This is where Dean's office comes in, and other heads of departments and all that. We have to infuse our curriculum with real-world applicability of tasks during curriculum planning meetings. Interdisciplinary learning has to be fostered. It has to be student-centered, open-ended, exploration and collaboration. Open-ended inquiry, I remember in AVMC, we discussed a few examples. I remember telling two. One was, instead of asking 10 drugs for treating iron deficiency anemia, convert it to the woman comes with moderate anemia, she can only spend 30 rupees a month maximum. Plan a treatment, effective treatment for iron deficiency anemia for her. So that kind of questioning. And the other one was, I think, that a lady cannot travel because she is alone, invalid and aged and unable to come for collecting weekly medicines for her asthma control. So how do you solve that? Open-ended inquiry. So things like this was in public health, community medicine. Exploration and collaboration, community discourse, higher order thinking, HOTS. Then mastery of key concepts. And ninth is flexibility of learning environment and resources. So this blog gives more details if you're interested in this. Okay, so in all TL sessions, we can create authentic learning experience by focusing on core competencies, as I mentioned earlier. For this, we need cooperation and coordination among preclinical, paraclinical, and clinical faculty. Then we can jolly well do that. I'll give you 3 examples. Bilirubin metabolism taught by biochemistry. This, I'm talking about Ames University. After imparting necessary knowledge, how can we impart relevant practical skills? No? So they discuss with clinicians. We have interdisciplinary meeting before each system is taken. So if you apply to IMG in your place in India, as a clinician communicator, no? 2 are chosen here. Then the clinician will tell, okay, during your 60-minute lecture, have a few, or during topic review session, ask students to interpret bilirubin reports and communicate to the role player patients. Or a pediatrician may say, every family doctor will get a child, a newborn, brought after a few days by the mother becoming yellow and all that. So it's a very important must-know area. So in year 1 itself, we can teach them. A pediatrician can take 5 minutes how to explain the basis of neonatal jaundice to a role player parent. The students can play themselves, or a pediatrician will advise, student will play the role of a parent. So it's a boring bilirubin metabolism and biochemistry becomes lively. They know what is important and why they should know, because it will be necessary later in life. Similarly, this was done. Dr. Maha knows very well. I used to go. Endocrine system, whoever is teaching, they'll come and contact me. I was vice chancellor then, but I used to go there. I used to enjoy that session. Relevant practical skills of endocrine system knowledge to practice as a clinician and lifelong learner. So it was a 2-hour session. In the last 5 minutes or something, I'll go, and I've done this in Jipper also earlier, that show that do you want to be Sherlock Holmes in your life, then endocrine is the best one. Syndrome recognition, show some dramatic pictures, and talk to them about the syndrome of thyroid, pituitary and all that, and for just 5 minutes. So all the theory that was taught, very important one in physiology, becomes dramatic and worthwhile for the students to read up later. Okay, third one, self-check. This is for the teachers. What IMG competency can I add for authentic learning? Biochemistry lecture and lipid metabolism, year 1, to explain lipid profile report and advice on diet to a high-risk individual. The students can play themselves. Anatomy lecture on osteology of foot. You ask an orthopedician, they'll say metatarsal strain is very common for joggers and long distance marching and all that. Many people have that. So simple lifestyle advice on how to prevent metatarsal strain during a long march or a jogging. This can be done by students. 3 to 5 minutes within the class on osteology of foot. Do you feel that such value addition by every educator over 4.5 years of MBBS curriculum will collectively make a huge impact on outgoing IMG? So this is the third chat box. So please respond yes, no, or 3 for unsure. 1, 2, or 3, please. Okay. I hope there are some entries.
Majority
So
of
we'll-
them
All
are
one.
one, sir.
Okay, we'll see it later. So I'm almost finished. So this is about assessment of authentic learning scenario. This is the last part. We need to evaluate ourselves whether whatever I do, I plan, is it authentic or not. So this can be used by the dean's office or the curriculum coordinator or the heads of department or the individual teacher. The context, the first theme is the context of ALS, authentic learning scenario that you've created. So does the context really reflect a setting in which Indian medical graduates would generally perform? So best is to have our students who are now GPs, ask them, is the pathway taken by learner to navigate ALS fixed or flexible? Sometimes it has to be fixed, like answers in the book, like a clinical practice guideline. Sometimes it should be flexible, open-ended. Like I said, how do you treat iron deficiency anemia for 30 rupees? CPS won't give that. They have to be answers in the brain. So do you want answer in the book or answer in the brain? Answer from the brain is actually correct, okay? Then the second theme is the activity that you plan for ALS, authentic learning scenario. Does it have real world significance? I gave 3, 4 examples earlier. Does it involve more than one field of study? Ideally, it should be across the silos, multidisciplinary. Explain the lab report for a patient with alcoholic steatohepatitis versus write an essay on alcoholic liver disease. So that is the difference. The first one is authentic learning scenario. Second one is just a theory. The practice gap may still be there. Access to cues and guidelines and expert guidance. All students may not flourish in this, so they need some cues and other web links and all to study and find out the answer. Is the ALS based on single perspective or multiple perspective? And collaborative construction of knowledge is ideal. You make the students sit in group or a breakout room and do all this. Allow time for reflection and articulation. And finally, authentic assessment of ALS. Is there any formative assessment to give feedback so that they perform this better or they get more interested in such activities? So my full article based on, no, it's just a sheet only. This assessment chart is available in ResearchGate, but it is modified from the original link which I have given. So therefore, the issues we covered today reflected on the role of teaching staff in reducing knowledge practice gap identified by UNESCO 50 years ago. And secondly, we discussed the characteristic of AL and ALE, viewed ALE in the context of 5 competencies of IMG, and considered how to include real-life issues for an IMG, even in basic science classes, to make them more authentic learning experiences. So therefore, my single message is, take-home message is, if preclinical, paraclinical, and clinical faculty can collaborate to create authentic learning experiences for our own students, then we can definitely bridge the knowledge practice gap and produce the competent Indian medical graduates that we can be proud of. So preclinical, paraclinical, and clinical staff must form a bridge and not a silo. So it is an easy passage to bridge across for students to run across. Okay, that much a difficulty we should take. And I hope you agree with this toddler to say Ole to ALE. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And over to the moderator. I think there is some 5 minutes.
Thank you, sir.
There are some hands raised. They can now either
Yes,
put in the
sir.
chat box or verbalize. No problem.
Yeah. The forum is open. Participants, any query can put their questions in the chat box. We'll take it for a.
Yeah, Sethuraman sir.
Yes, Dr. Koto.
Yeah. In fact, I already put that my question in the chat box. Probably it was not. Now, my question is, Uma, can you read my question, which I already put?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah, read that.
A minute.
You can ask, Prof. It's faster.
Yeah. Sir, you said those 5 factors of relevance, scope, coherence, proximity, and feasibility are the one which determine or decide the authenticity of the curriculum.
True.
What is the role of outcome as regards the authenticity is concerned? Now, in other words, without knowing the outcome, are we justified in calling this recently enrolled competency-based curriculum as an authentic one?
No, authenticity, that's why I started with PEO. Program Educational Objective is the ultimate goal. What our graduates will be able to do 5 years after passing out of the college, that is the real life need that they need, long term. So we have to work backwards from there. Backwards curriculum designing, that is a separate topic. So I deliberately removed all those slides. I wouldn't finish it.
That means before we declare that a CBM is authentic, we have to wait for another 2-3 years until the product comes out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. True. The current batch of, we call our alumni even to 2019, we called our alumni for a meeting, about 17 of them, and we had a frank discussion on if they re-enter MBBS, what they think they didn't learn at that time and all that. So some good tips came, so we do that.
Sir, there is one more question.
Yeah, please.
Is there any simple solution to handle large number of students with limited number of faculty? From Vishnu Bhatt, sir.
Yes, this we hear that in China they have 2,000 students intake for MBBS batch, 10,000 over 5 years. They are managing. So other universities are doing, and now with remote learning, it is possible that we can do teaching online for up to 1,000 students at a time, the theory part. But for skills, they have to come. That has to be a small group or individual activity. That cannot be compromised. So,
Sir, you
we
have got
to work out,
appreciation.
some innovative methods. We have done one year training, clinical training without going to hospital. It's all in simulation lab, including longitudinal clerkship. In fact, Professor Y.D. Singh will be talking about it tomorrow in the award session. So we have done it and we want to share that experience tomorrow, both the examination part and the teaching part, clerkship. But that doesn't answer Dr. Bhatt's question of large number. Large number, easy, that is easy to learn has to be left for self-learning. The bulk of it, 80-20 principle. 80% of knowledge can be learned in 20% of the time. And 20% of the tough portions need 80% of teaching time. So there, if interdisciplinary, we sit together, easy ones we can give for self-learning or tutorial and all that and finish off. And tough ones we spend time. Thank you.
Peer group assessment and peer group training solve the problem. Now what is happening is 50 becomes 100, 150, now 250. But proportionately, we are not increasing the faculty. So the number of faculty covering the students would be large. So whatever observation we do, the faculty may not be able to do everything. Maybe we have to find a solution, how to do give the feedback, how to observe, maybe peer group or something else.
What way out is to use the postgraduates. I used to do it in JIPMER even in 1988. When I discovered that BP, one fellow JIPMER student, he was one of the, out of 1 lakh who wrote the entrance exam, he was the lucky one, 37 who got in. And after 5 years, fellow can't take BP, then we are entirely responsible. So from that time, 88, we started formative ASCII. Everybody has to take BP. PGs will monitor. They learn by correcting all the mistakes and giving the principles of how to do. So you have a large population of PGs. So we can use them as tutors, and that way they learn by correcting mistakes of undergraduates. Thank you.
Sir, can we divide this large group in the small groups and use postgraduates as you suggested? Large group, in the large group, small groups, and then you can give problem to them, and each group will have one postgraduate.
True. Right. Can be done. Sure.
Sir, I have one question. If you remember, one of the FDPs we did even before the CBME got introduced, we asked the departments to map what they are doing to address the IMG competencies, overall competencies in their department. And to our surprise, we had a few departments, we said, oh, these things we never do. Like some of the departments said, there is nothing about communication in my department. There is nothing about healthcare leader in our department and things like that. So like having said that, and also like it takes a lot of effort to make the program evaluation objectives, program outcomes, and course outcomes. We are also burdened with a lot of these competencies, like you yourself mentioned in anatomy, there is so many are there. So is it not for the governing body to come up with what is the program evaluation outcome, PEOs, which need to be done? And to some extent, what they have given as competencies, they need to map it and say that this is how these competencies relate to the IMG competencies, because now it looks like IMG exists as one, and the departmental or subject specific competencies exist as another pool. How do we bridge this, sir?
My feeling is it's ultimately a bottoms up approach. Each teacher, educator has to recognize that the success of students' practical skills is ultimately upon us. So nobody told me to do formative ASCII. In fact, Maha knows that HOD fired me and transferred all my unit people because he was angry that I was using different kind of teaching than the conventional bedside teaching. So that happened, but these things happen. So we have to, each one has to push. The result is not any award. The students who underwent, they write from USA and all. We still remember ASCII sessions. We are thoroughly grounded in all clinical skills. Nobody can shake us and all that. That is the award. So it is worth spending. So if anatomists teach about metatarsal strain and all that, when he sees a metatarsal strain in his practice, he will remember, oh, we learned even in year 1. And he will probably write in Facebook or somewhere, my anatomy teacher taught. No, that is the award. That introspection has to come instead of trying to say that other people must do. And why can't each one of us, if there are 100, we have 99 faculty in Ames University Faculty of Medicine. All 99 wear this hat. We have a lot of interdisciplinary activities, easier. It is possible to do a graduate. In fact, our graduate rated very high and picked up in all the hospitals as interns. HKL hospital, Kuala Lumpur is most difficult to get. So our fellows are one of the choice for them. The credit goes to Prof. Y.D. Singh and all the other teachers like him who push them to learn. And because of systems curriculum, all these are embedded even in year 1, year 2. They learn systems for 18 months. We don't teach anatomy, physiology and all that. It's all system-based curriculum.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for those illustrative, interactive, and we enjoyed the session, sir. Thank you so much.
Sir, 1 second, sir.
Oh, sorry, sir.
Sorry, ma'am, I had muted and started talking. Sir, sticking on to my earlier question or continuation of my earlier question, I will make one statement. I want your response. Is it not a paradox that at one end we are advocating evidence-based education, at the other end we are promoting, advocating a non-evidence-based curriculum?
It's a difficult question. I think we'll talk later. We'll have a WhatsApp chat 1-to-1. Thank you.
Okay.
It's a very difficult question. I need a half an hour to think about it. Thank you.
Sir,
Okay, sir, thank you.
in chat box also there are many such practical questions, sir. I think that we'll take it up later, sir, because of timing. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, they can. I will save it and then maybe I'll answer in our WhatsApp group. No problem.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now we'll move on to the second session, which is on
feedback.
Okay, sorry. To make it more illustrative, and since we are on innovations, we'll be sharing the link in the chat box that is on sessions evaluation. Please click the link and give your scoring. It's a Mentimeter scale. The link is shared. Please take a couple of minutes to do that. Sir, you have a lot of appreciation, sir, in a chat box telling thank you. It was a wonderful session and a good presentation. And some have rhymed it in Hindi, Ole Ole song also, sir, for you.
Uma, can you explain a little bit about Menti?
Uh,
Okay, we are using this app to collect the session feedbacks. You need to click the link and then you can post your responses. It's a very interactive thing. If not, you can actually copy the link and put it in Google. Can we actually share the voting number also, Bharti? So that's the responses. Thank you very much, sir. It has got outstanding. The session meets stated objectives, quality of presentation, and interactivity.
okay. We'll move on to the next session. It is on feedback in educational environment. The speaker is none other than our Honorable Dean, Professor P.F. Kotur, a reputed anesthesiologist who has done his PhD in medical education and FIACA member. Sir has several prestigious positions, like formerly he has been a vice chancellor, he has been a registrar, he has been a dean. He has several awards to his credentials, to name a few. He has got Lifetime Achievement Award in 2014 from Indian Society of Anesthesiologists and Award of British Association of Indian Anesthesiologists in 2009. Sir has been a resource person in several international conferences and he has several scientific papers to his credentials. Sir has established skills and simulation labs in prestigious universities. His also field of interest is medical education, evidence-based medicine, cardiovascular and thoracic anesthesia. Over to you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Uma. I want to share the screen.
Yes,
So
sir.
now you will be able to see.
Yes. Now, is my screen visible?
Sir, we need it in full screen.
Yes, okay.
Once. Yeah.
Great, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before I begin my session, of course, now it's 3:39, 5:40. I have to say that, my opinion, my session need not be evaluated. I don't put the Mentimeter at the conclusion of my session. That is not your opinion, and that's what I want. Dr. Uma, please note.
Sorry, sir. Sure, sir.
Okay. Now, of course, for this, my talk for the next 35-40 minutes, feedback on the educational environment, Professor Sethuraman has put a foundation, a very firm foundation. And he has talked in depth about the environment, dynamic environment, how it is changing, the factors, all the things. And I will be complementing that with my thoughts, of course, and the feedback. Now, this education, history, all the old feedback, if you just try to find out its history, the word feedback is not long one. Only somewhere in 1920 or 30s it was described. It is a combination of one verb and an adverb. Verb is a feed and back is an adverb. And that is how it got introduced, especially when it was introduced for some noise back to something which was emanating noise, that kind of a thing. Now, it was found out to be some very useful tool to give us scope for improvement. And of course, This feedback has been in every field, including the education, medical education, and is definitely got a special application, definite roles to subserve here in this context. Now, I already mentioned some thoughts about the reforms and reformations which have been happening across the country, across the globe, and which are confused or complicated by the COVID pandemic. We all know that this environment is a dynamic one, it changes, various factors influence it. And it is our duty as an educationist to nurture that environment if we like to have a good outcome. So suppose you nurture the educational environment, you have a good outcome. So your environment in which you are imparting this medical curriculum is good, then the outcome, the Indian medical graduate will be a good one. So that's what I want to emphasize. And the environment, or you can say in a layman's terms, you can say a climate, what the students perceive the educational environment, the overall medical college, at the climate, when they enter the campus, okay, then they meet the teachers, they will try to find out what is taught, how is it taught, and all. Those will have an impression on them to determine whether the environment in the institution is a positive one or a negative one. And we all know that this environment or the climate influences the behavior. Just to give a simple example, if the weather environment is so hot and all, your behavior is changed, you will be all the time perspiring and you will not be comfortable, you will not be able to perform. In a similar way, the educational environment determines the behavior of all the stakeholders, the teachers, the students, and all other persons. So this environment applies to a wide range of settings, both formal and informal. And of course, all kinds of education, primary, secondary, tertiary education will have a specific requirements of the environment, to call it as an ideal. And all these environments have to be linked with the respective curricula. That we have to keep in the mind. Our medical curricula, clinical teaching, clinical feedback, all have some influence on the environment we need to maintain, we need to nurture. Now, this I already mentioned, when the students arrive at the college, they interact with the teachers and they decide. And they decide about this environment in this institution is conducive and it facilitates learning. Suppose they find that teachers are authoritative, good, not behaving properly, or the facilities are not there, which make the learning difficult. Then we can say that the learning environment is far from healthy or rather unhealthy. I listed the list of the elements, it's an exhaustive list, only some selected ones I have taken. These are the things which determine or decide the educational environment in any institution. See the teacher skills, the classrooms, size of the class, the timetable that is followed, teaching methodologies, learning resources, including the library, then the Wi-Fi, accessibility to the computers, skill labs, clinical experience, assessment methods, and the clear learning outcomes, social life, how is the social life in the campus, what is the student support facilitations, those are available in the campus. Is it that we have a sense of belonging, we're all AVMC family, that kind of a belonging is there or not? What kind of accommodation, what kind of food that is being given, and what is the transport available here in the campus, intra-campus transfer, and the safety issues, especially the girl students, and what are the relaxation facilities, leisure facilities. These all things will be considered to call any environment as a healthy educational environment. Now the students are smart. Now we are receiving the cosmopolitan students from all across the country. And the students are quite, before choosing the college, they come visit. They come and visit the campus, they come and visit the hostel, they come and visit the mess. They try to find out, to decide whether the educational environment in this particular institution where I am going to be enrolled will be conducive to me, or will I become a good Indian medical graduate or not. Now, question is, can the educational environment be measured? The answer is definite yes. And once you say yes, how is it measured? You need something, some tool of measurement you require. There are tools available which measure the educational environment. Now it is a day of competitions, and every institution, we can do a self-assessment. Where do we stand as per these various tools available? I just try to name a few tools which are quite appropriate for us. And before that, reasons for measuring the educational environment, we have to answer why it has to be measured. If we want to have an improved students' performance, we want the name of a doctor produced by UMC, by any other institution, is a good one, globally accepted. Then it has to be measured, environment. And the environment, it's a higher staff morale. Now, because of measuring in medical colleges, many a times the salary, because of the salary, we see many staff members jumping from one college to the other, right? But the other thing which keeps or retain a faculty in a particular institution, apart from the salary, but sometimes what happens, even if the salary is not good, the environment, the academic environment, educational environment, teaching learning environment in a particular institution is good. The faculty will be holding this, those staff members who have high morale. And this, of course, environment decides the behavior. It increases the motivation of the student. Suppose your library is such a wonderful one, excellent one, state-of-art library facilities with all, then the number of footfalls automatically increases. So it will motivate the students to visit the library, visit the learning resources, and it will give the institution a positive profile. And of course, it has the quality of the teaching. All the teachers are all educated in the revised basic course workshop. We want all the 100% of our teachers to be educational technology, learning methodology known, to undergo training. So those things are also counted in the environment. And these are all the evidence of positive changes. So these are the reasons why an environment, educational environment has to be measured. You can give a grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, like that, and then decide. See, this educational environment measurement can be utilized by the student and by the teacher also. Suppose I am joining some other institution, I can apply this tool, and where this education environment of this particular institution is there, you can see. These are some of the tools that are available. The Dundee Ready Educational Environment Measure, DREAM, FEAM for the postgraduate, then clinical learning, this clinical learning environment supervision, and for the dental student, DISLESS. They are all suitable for the UG, PG health profession, educational institution, educational environment measurement tools. So you can apply them. Now, some of the frequently asked questions for the students, we put them on our website to give the feedback. We collect the feedback from them. What do you like most about the school, where you studied or where you are studying? What was your most memorable experience? What area would you like to have improved in your school? Suppose you are asked to give one suggestion for the improvement of your school environment, school teaching. So what is that one message?
I request all the participants to mute.
You yourself can mute centrally.
I'm doing it, sir.
Yeah. So what message you like to give to your teachers? We normally ask teachers feedback. Now we'll come to with this much of background information, and we had in-depth knowledge about the various environmental issues. Professor Sethuraman already sensitized all of us. Now with the feedback, I already said it is a combination of a verb and an adverb, feed and back. And even though the teaching is as old as even dating back to centuries, this feedback must have been there. It may not have been structured like the one which got in recent years, the emphasis. I said the word itself was coined in somewhere from 1920 or 30s. That doesn't mean that feedback was not there. Even if you see the picture of Sushruta teaching surgery to some of the students, there you will get an impression that the Sushruta is talking and giving feedback to his students. So it must also be as old as the education. So what is the feedback? It is information describing the student's performance in a given activity that is intended to guide their future performance in the same or related activities. In a simple words, it is a comment. It is a comment that is done about the student's performance. What he does, See, the comment can be a positive, comment can be a negative. How it will help him in the future? Suppose you are given some feedback for a student who is taking, for example, a history of a patient. You give him some comment. Yeah, this patient belongs to some cardiovascular disease or something. Or then even if next time when he sees other patient, other system patient, say central nervous system patient, he applies the same principle. Suppose you are teaching the student how to do an antiseptic preparation before putting an incision or before doing any procedure, he will apply that same feedback you are given to a similar or related activity in future. So that's what it meant. And so the feedback given can be related to any activity, the present one or in future also related activity. That's what is the feedback. And we all know that we're already convinced that feedback is the very essential element of teaching learning. And it allows both the parties to achieve objectives, goals, personal goals as well as program goals. Both parties, what I mean is the teacher and the students. And they have got a critical role to play for all the three stakeholders, learner, teacher, and the educational program, also as one of the stakes. So it is important from all 3 points of view. Let us see how it is important from the learner's point of view. Now, prior to that, we are quite familiar with these various types of feedback: constructive feedback, positive feedback, negative feedback. One thing what I like to say here is this: the positive feedback can be a critique of somebody doing something. Suppose your student is doing some activity not rightly, you can critique in such a way that he doesn't feel offended. It is a positive feedback, but but the negative thing done by the student. So I don't want you to get confused. Positive feedback or a negative feedback either can be. And one similar observation about any activity performed by the student can be a positive as well as a negative. It is the way how it is instructed. But one thing is whether it's a positive or a negative, it has to be constructive. It should help the student to improve. It should help the learner to improve. So it will give the learner an insight into his. Insight means student learner will be reflecting on what he has learned. So it gives the learner, when he is reflecting, as what has gone right and what has gone wrong. And it is quite essential, I already said, to differentiate constructive feedback from a positive or a negative feedback. Then a positive feedback is always, active listening is a part of it. The learner will be actively listening. Or when the teacher is observing or the student performing, he will be actively listening. So it involves both active listening by both the parties. And each one have got a respect for each other. And a specific praise or a criticism in an acceptable way is a positive feedback. You have got a genuine desire to help the learner. That is a positive feedback. Spending adequate time for that. Time is not a constraint to give a positive feedback. Now, this negative feedback is the one, which is intended to humiliate something, insulting the person who performed. What nonsense is this? You don't know how to do this simple thing. That too publicly. This kind of humiliation for no one. Whether it's a student or a child also doesn't want that kind of humiliation. That is the negative feedback. And a comment about the personality. Look at how you are dressed. That kind of things many a times we see happening around us. And it should be a one-way discussion. Whatever, the learner will be passively listening and the teacher will be just going on telling. Which is not, it is a negative feedback. And a lack of personal interest in the learner. Learner will lose the interest. And the generalized feedback about the whole class, generalization. Oh, something went wrong. None of you are listening. All of you are not listening. These kind of feeding, they are kind of a negative feedback. and feedback that is too brief or too long, it should be optimal. Now, why is feedback important to the learner? The feedback clarifies goals and expectations. Just excuse me for a minute. Bear with me for a minute.
Please take your time, sir.
Yeah. So what is the perception of the feedback from the learner's point of view? See, clarify the goals and expectations. Suppose the sir told about these various goals of the Indian medical graduate. He should be a communicator, he should be a professional, good clinician. So you give any feedback related to that, and this learner will appreciate the goals and expectation. And it enhances, catalyzes or reinforces the performance, good performance by the student. And it, of course, it provides a basis for correcting the mistakes. Suppose when he is performing, then and there itself you tell him, you correct him, because you know that it is a formative assessment. Suppose at the end of that, end of the act, you give him, it will be summative. Then I already mentioned about the insight into the performance for the reflections. Later on he can utilize it as and when needed. Then, of course, it reduces reliance on self-validation. Some mentor is there to tell him what is right, what is wrong. Then it reduces anxiety and the insecurity when he tries to perform the act in future. So he has got already a feedback. You know what he had gone wrong. And he will certainly less anxious, and he will feel secure to perform that act. And demonstrate interest about the learner. And it already said, it will be a two-way communication. The learner and they both work as a partners or allies in this feedback process, and of course it provides a guidance. Now for the teacher, of course, the learning never ceases until the last breath. We say, even if you are a teacher, many times you learn from our students. So even though feedback session is being given for the intention of improving the student's performance in future, what about the teacher's performance? You will have an introspection, you will have self-introspection, and it will certainly help for you also to improve your feedback session next time. So, and you or enhance your or improvise your teaching method itself and your assessment method. So that demonstrates the teacher's commitment. Suppose teacher is very much involved and taking time and to improve the student, and it will reflect the commitment to help or commitment for the student to accomplish the goal. And we all know that it is difficult to give a feedback when it is negative. You need to think over, you need to plan, you need to write down as how it has to be said. No, even if the learner, however small he is, if you tell him in a palatable, he will listen. Otherwise, they'll just turn their back. Even a small child, if you try to advise him in an unpalatable way, the child will turn its back and go hell with you and your advice. So now we're all teaching the adults, we're all teaching professionals. Whenever they are postgraduates, they're already having the MBBS degree with them. To give a feedback to such kind of students, you really need to be mature, you really need to be honest, you really need to be dedicated and committed. So this one study was been done wherein the teachers were asked, what kind of a FDP you all like to undergo? And it was the most recommended by many teachers was special training educational activity for the teacher was as how to give a feedback. But unfortunately, enough emphasis has not been given. Now, of course, even the regulating council, the regulating bodies are giving enough importance. Even the accrediting agencies from all the feedback from all the stakeholders, So those are coming to picture now, but not until recently, feedback had not much of an importance. Then from the educational point of view, why the feedback is important? See, making a feedback a regular part of an educational experience encourages and developments of the expertise. And a culture that accepts and promotes the feedback supports a feeling of positive improvement in the school, And the medical school and PG training programs are accountable to external agencies. No, I said external agencies means, suppose the NAC comes or the feedback of the students is taken into consideration. Program evaluation, we do take feedback from the parents, the student satisfaction survey. So these are all coming back. Feedback is now gaining more and more importance. Now, we already made a statement that the feedback is difficult to do because it's not as simple as it appears. So you need to have a time, you need to have a place, some kind of a privacy. And both the learner and the teacher has to have certain knowledge base if you want to give effective feedback. And ability to give a feedback and ability to receive a feedback. That is also very important. And the affective factors, ego, those kind of things also have to be taken care of. And I already told about the different perceptions of the feedback.
Sir, you have muted yourself, sir. Dean, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So these are the, So the why it is not simple as it appears is because of all these factors. When you accomplish, then you will be able to give a effective feedback. Now, the David Kerr, we all know, the educationist from US, So his theory of learning, and he gave giving a feedback. He described a stepwise approach. Very simple steps. One is of course, like any other activity, preparation before the meeting, preparation before the feedback session. First and foremost thing is you have to establish the rapport with your student or with your learner. If there is no rapport, outcome of the feedback will be questionable, will not be positive. So we establish a rapport develop with the students. Go to the student level and develop a rapport with him. Then once that confidence is there, on mutual confidence on each other, then both of you agree on goals and objectives, why you are giving and what you want to accomplish. So he wants to be a good doctor, so he needs to have all these things. Then you have some agreement. He will be convinced that he is convinced of the goals, what he has to be. Then your feedback will have an effect. And then prepare recipient early. And they expect a feedback. What I mean is, it should be given then and there itself before it is forgotten. Early feedback, you don't give a gap of some muted period, then start giving. No. That's why for the essence of this competence-based education is a continuous formative assessment and a feedback. Because you are making the student or a learner to get impregnated with the competencies. So it is formative, on spot, then and there itself, feedback is very, very important. And before giving a feedback, you collect the relevant data and observations. They are ready at hand. You write them and keep it ready rather than jumbling up later. And arrange for a conducive physical environment. I already described the environment. Suppose the session where I am doing this session is not conducive, not comfortable. I may not be able to perform well what I am trying to do now. So similarly, the physical environment for the place where feedback session is going on has to be arranged. And we say collegial seating arrangement. I don't say, you need to be a luxurious put sofa sets, this, that, everything. But a collegial seating arrangement is the one which is utilized by the teacher and the students. That kind of arrangement. I don't mean a luxurious arrangement. So this preparation is the first step. Collection of all the important information and making the environment comfortable, developing a rapport, get a confidence, then then start the journey. Next one is open the meeting effectively. Well done is half, well begun is half done. You assess the recipient's readiness, whether the recipient, in spite of all that first step and all, he is ready, or he is physically present and mentally somewhere else. These things happen. Suppose he is mentally elsewhere, your feedback session will go to waste. And the rapport you have developed, you continue that. And you already agreed upon the purpose. You can reinforce while giving the feedback. That is the step 2. Now the proper encourage the recipient for self-assessment, and you can begin the conversation by asking, what do you think? How do you think? What you did was right? That kind of a thing. And you reinforce the desirable behaviors. Desirable behaviors during feedback session is, suppose he has to be an active listener, not a passive listener. So you reinforce that. And suppose you are telling any deficiency, you tell him that he did not perform this particular job well. Can you analyze the reasons why? Oh, probably you didn't have a proper, suppose you have asked him, you are giving him a feedback about starting an IV line. Okay, then you will tell him properly, you didn't fix a vein, you didn't read about it. The veins are very slippery when they are located in the subcutaneous tissue. Probably knowledge the student may not have. So you can tell him that, prior performing any skill, a reasonable amount of basic knowledge you have to have, you should have read and come, you would have been able to perform. So these kind of things, analysis, you have to give the reason for the learner. And when you have identified the problem, and you have to give the solution. You can't give feedback, doesn't stop and telling only the problems. You have to give the solution, then only it will be effective. And the recipients or the learners' understanding and acceptance is very important. Whatever, halfway through the process of giving a feedback also. So this his understanding and acceptance, nowhere it can go wrong. And suppose everything goes on well as you planned, and he's very recipient and he's very enthusiastic and very much positive, you immediately convey to him that you are excellent, you are an excellent mentee, or you are an excellent person, learner, excellent student, your outcome is good, you will do well next time. That kind of feelings you should express. And as you made a very good beginning, you have to close also effectively. And of course, you have to summarize positively. Oh, we have found out about this, and this is a reason why you did not do well. And this is a solution. Next time when you do like this. So this is the way, and this is how you are going to grow. This is how you are going to the next stage of competency. So like that. And see, subsequently, you can, in subsequent sessions, you can plan for the next feedback. Suppose with the same person, you have to give a feedback about something else. So you can plan and assess the progress. So this is in a nutshell, the stepwise process described by David Kern for effective feedback. Now, you must have already known that I enough emphasize that various skills are needed to give a feedback. Multiple skills are needed, covering all the domains, knowledge domain, effective domain, psychomotor domain, and the affective domain. Skills in respect of each of the domains is essential for giving a feedback. And this demonstration of a positive regard for you have to yourself have to be positive first. Then involvement of the student in progress, and you get the student involved, and you have to be very specific, no generalized. If you generalize, it will become negative feedback. And a descriptive, non-evaluative language. You need to have a distinction between feedback and evaluation. Many a times you get confused. Both might be overlapping, encroaching on each other. But evaluation definitely is different, and feedback is different. Of course, when you are giving a feedback in the back of your mind, there will be a kind of evaluation you have done about that act performed by the student, but that you are not going to let him know in that particular period of time. And so you focus on the remedial behaviors. Give a feedback wherein you hope or you believe that based on your experience, this behavior of the student can be corrected. There is no use in giving a behavior which you don't have any control, which the student can't control, you can't control, you can't remedify. So otherwise it will be a waste of time. This remedial behaviors, we see, we read it when we are reading about the Alzheimer's. When you are reading about Alzheimer's, you will say remedial measures, remedial behavior of an Alzheimer patient. So that kind of a knowledge you should have. What can be brought back, what can not. So what a feasible solution. You identify them and give to have a good outcome. And your time is not a constraint. It doesn't mean that you have an exhaustive list of the things to give a feedback to the students. You at the time, 2 or 3 observations, 2 or 3 problems, 2 or 3 deficits, and analysis and a solution. It will be acceptable. And your own subjective feelings, and assumptions, they have no role, and you have to manage them separately. In the feedback session, your subjective impression, perspective might be different. In the larger interest of the opinion or a larger interest of the improvement of your learner, your personal assumptions may not be there. And listen and understand recipient's perspective feelings. You, at the end, before conclusion, you can always listen to. These are all various skills those are needed to have an effective feedback. Now there are certain how to make a feedback more effective and valuable. This is make the students understand what a good performance is. Suppose let it be any act, let it be an act of clerkship, let it be an act of a skill, let it be an act of a behavior. What is a good performance? The student should be aware. Make it understand that what is a good performance. Suppose you are giving a feedback about professionalism. What are the etiquettes of a true professional? Those should make the student to understand. Then your feedback will be good. And suppose suppose you are doing some surgical procedure or some anesthetic procedure or some procedure, then what is the outcome of good performance? What is the outcome of bad performance? If the student is made to understand, then your exercise will be good. And of course, the self-assessment and reflections, no doubt by giving a feedback, you are making him less anxious about both of these things. You simplify for the improvement process and you ask him to introspect. And you have to always provide a quality information. First-hand information, quality information, correct information, authentic information. And it has to be given here at the right time. Right time, I already said, as soon as possible, or formative, on the spot, instant. And you allow for the peer dialogue, of course. Positive motivational beliefs you have to promote. The gap between the current and the desired performance. What is expected and what has been done. So that gap has to be very clear and you give an opportunity for him to bridge that gap. So the effective feedback, I already said, that can be given to provide the teachers also used to shape their future teaching. That I already said that the teachers also get the feedback to get the teaching improved. There are some principles of feedback, a culture that values the constructive improvement, constructive feedback, that should be the culture, attention to time and location, that I already talked enough on that. You need to set standards about what feedback you are giving about. Then use of the positive communication strategies, your body language, your dress, all kinds of things. Then other principles of effective feedback are always spelled out. It should be not a one direction. It's a two-way process. Both are active. The person who gives feedback, the one who listens. The language that has to be used is a precise, explicit language, descriptive, and objective. Okay, and you focus on the behavior, not on the person. If you try to giving the feedback on the personal issues, then it will be negative feedback, and nobody likes to receive such kind of feedbacks. And monitoring the learner's background, temperament, personality, and response. Those things are also you have to keep in mind to have an effective feedback. And you will be very selective. Be selective not to choose a learner, but be selective in giving a feedback about what is to be given to a particular person. You have a background information of his temperament, his personality, his behavior in the class, etc. Based on that, you plan. That's why first and study, plan effectively. So these are some of the examples are here for Uma, this continuously somebody entering the disturbs that, no?
Yes, sir.
Admit, it comes and blocks my way.
Oh, is it?
Ineffective, yeah. See, this ineffective feedback is always vague. And say, so just to give an example, your performance was disappointing. Okay, you can't say that. So you can, instead of that, you make a descriptive statement as where what went wrong and what should have been done. And you did a good job. You know, a good job doesn't give any kind of a feedback. It's ineffective feedback. And unnecessarily don't use harsh words like, oh, you didn't do well. You can't you prioritize? These kind of things, penetrative statements should not be given. And I already said about the personality traits, you have to, those kind of things, you don't do that. And hearsay things, you don't give any feedback. Dr. X problem while doing that job. You are not supposed to do that. You are not supposed to give this kind of a feedback somebody else has observed. Feedback has to be given by the first-hand information you got by observing the student perform that task. And good feedback is, you addressed Mr. X concern, but it's also important to, suppose he's taking history, it's also important to consider history of diabetes, which plays an important role as regards today, like that, And you take time with the patients and answer their questions. You be patient. Suppose you find that one doctor or a student has not behaved well with the patient or too quick, then you can give that kind of feedback. And even the constructive feedback, I already given you some example. Issues you raise about the smoking are very important. But I think let us not focus on that. Let us focus on that. Don't, instead of telling you should not have asked the smoking history, which is not totally relevant here. No student will. Then he will, in the mind, he says that this my teacher is not knowing smoking and hypertension both are related. Students are also quite intelligent, as intelligent or rather more intelligent than the persons we give feedbacks. And the focused behavior, I already said your viewpoints are valuable, but it's important to hear from the rest of the team also. During rounds, you continuously identify the important elements of the case. So like that, in a focused observation comments you can make.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Your time is.
I started at 3:40. Okay. And and I'm monitoring time, Mahalakshmi.
Okay, sir.
And feedback as a best practice. We always see a best practice of the university, best practice of the department, etc. If you view best practice of feedback as a best practice, that will give a certain insight into that. So your goal is clear and you facilitate the development of reflection. So one of the departments in my earlier institution had chosen giving feedback to the student as the best practice of the department. This was for this slide I have taken from there. So they have said what are the etiquettes or characteristics of the best practice for feedback. Delivers high quality information. These I already talked in various slides earlier. So view the feedback as a best practice. And the tips to give to practice, I already covered many of them. Plan ahead, don't make up, think first, you organize your thoughts. I already told about make notes and make it clear, read, understand what you are saying. Don't overquote and certainly come back and say, I agree, don't low down. So just agree or disagree, justify. Say agree or disagree may not make any meaning. And ensure message is appropriate and provide meaningful feedback in a timely manner. And it should be undertaken by the work as a partners or allies, I already said, and first-hand data I already mentioned, and no generalizations. All these tips I have taken already addressed. And now the writer described guidelines to receive the feedback. Ability to receive the feedback is also essential to the learner. So the receiving a feedback effectively requires a maturity, awareness, and commitment. You assess your student whether he has this, then your feedback will be effective. And the mutual agreement, I already mentioned about that, about the goals, etc. And this active role, I already thought about it. And feedback is to be sought as an ongoing part of your clinical learning on a day-to-day basis. I already mentioned about that and give examples. And I said negative feedback has to have a cause and a solution. And in case you have a personal conflict, or if you have a interpersonal with your student, then you can use a trusted advisor for that to help you both out. You can't overcome your personal conflict in that issue. So it is a very opportunity for both and learning. And at the same time, you have to understand the strengths and of the learner as well. You are giving a feedback about the negative things, fine, but you from time to time appreciate his strengths, and it will help him to make a full clear sense of his strengths so that he will further reinforce those strengths. And we all know that like everything, e-learning, e-teaching, e-feedback is also there. Email, and I do not know. I certainly don't want to comment whether you can give email feedback on WhatsApp. So it has a dual sword, dual sword. But email feedback is an accepted thing, simple, effective. Audio, video, podcast. You can have a screencast. You can give a cycling comments to the students. But it will be so many students, 150 students. It might be difficult. These are the various modes of the feedback techniques. Those are developed, and innovations in feedback techniques. And clinical teaching as well as a special position for the feedbacks. Clinical skills are observed. Unfortunately, many times we don't, they are not observed. When you don't observe, feedback is not given. Ultimate result is the student will not perform. And I already mentioned about the observable behaviors, which can be remedial. So that is one. And the clinical skill is, your demonstration plays a role. The student will see you doing it. And I can recollect my days as an anesthesiologist of a skilled-oriented sociologist, the speciality, how many times my activity was observed to my teachers and all. No, I really recollect them now also, even. When I'm performing a particular act of intubation, when I did for the first time, what feedback was given by my teacher. When I'm inserting a Ryle's tube, lift the jaw, take it away from the esophagus, then your Ryle's tube will go. These kind of feedbacks, when I received 40 years back from my teacher, are still green in my memory. So this is the importance of the feedback to be given to the students by the teacher. So I already said the distinction between the feedback and evaluation. And this one is information, another one is the judgment. And the evaluation is summative, while feedback is formative. And allow students to remain on course, goal always in the back of the mind. And feedback is a neutral composer of verbs and nouns, whereas evaluation is peppered with adverbs and adjectives. You keep this thing in mind. And there's some facts about the feedback. Always I made a statement that whenever you are giving a feedback, some judgment is already there in the back of the mind. Don't disclose it. And the hazards of giving the feedback are not very severe. This has been documented. And the one thing you remember is feedback will have an effect even beyond itself later. I just gave an example of my feedback when I got for the first time, Ryle's tube I was passing, it was curling and coming out through the nose. It was not going. So this is the things, some tips you have to keep in mind. One thing is, students are all adults. They don't like something, comment or a feedback on a thing which you already have a wrong notion, wrong concept. They want only feeding, not a feedback. So that's why you have to plan, you have to make him understand, you can analyze and tell. So suppose, without they being observed during the time, they won't get a formative feedback. And that time, you will have a concept that what he is doing is right. Then later on, if you give a feedback, you will not accept. That thing you have to keep in mind. And feedback should be solicited rather than imposed. And I already said about young professionals, especially PGs, they resist the efforts by the teachers to change them because they already have an MBA degree with them. So you have to keep that in mind. That I already know, non-evaluative objective appraisal, and it has to be relaxed atmosphere. Both should be relaxed. And who should give a feedback? Not only the teacher, all the stakeholders, whoever has got an ability to make a valid observation and whoever has got an experience can give. Simulated patient can give a feedback. And peer can give a feedback. And who should not give a feedback? Administrator should not give the feedback. Who will not observe the person performing? The dean should not give a feedback to a student because dean will not be seeing what the student is doing. Departmental heads should not give unless they are observing. And it should be limited, as already mentioned. So the conclusion is, important thing to remember about the feedback is it should be necessary, it is valuable, and it is not difficult. It needs to be let and ensure that the feedback should be an important concern for the curriculum and departmental committees. Now, feedback is an important session, even in the curricular committees or the subcommittees and even the MCIs. What is the student feedback? Mid-course curriculum, or mid-course feedback, mid-curriculum feedback, end semester feedback. These are what we have got Google form, we have got the questionnaires, get that. And feedback is an important indicator of how well the program is going on. And trainees' reaction for a feedback is a valid indicator of the program success and how the person, the mentee gives a feedback. And I already mentioned maturity, honesty, and selfless commitment are very much needed or essential for the feedback. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for giving me a opportunity to share some thoughts on this important aspect of this educational environment. Now, I quote, we all need people who give us feedback. That's how we improve. That is the quote by Bill Gates. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
And
Sir, you have,
time,
yes, sir.
Yes,
sir. Sir, you have in a chat box people appreciating that. Thank you, sir. That the talk was good.
Thank you very much.
Now we'll move on to next session with no much queries from in the chat box. That is, it's a
Uma, can I make one observation too, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, please.
Very nice talk, sir, on feedback and how to go about it, and especially feedback on improving clinical skills and competency development. Sir, what do you think about the feedbacks on educational environment? You were talking about dream score and the clinical practice course and all that. Can you say a few words more about it?
Certainly. Now, this is the day of the competition. So I already said that the students choosing a college to learn, teachers choosing a college to work. Okay, suppose we make use of this dream or a beam or whatever it is, then you can choose. The students, the days are not far off, wherein the students will come out with this. Unfortunately, I already made a statement that the feedback was not given much emphasis all these days, even though the education, environment, all. Now this evaluation will be a good thing. We can do a self-introspection of the educational environment in AVMC, educational environment in the Department of Pediatrics, in the Department of Medicine. Like that, we can give an exercise to the various departments, various institutions, come out with things. That will be a wonderful idea, Professor Mahalakshmi.
Sir, we already have one student's educational experience survey from outgoing interns, because we used a dream questionnaire twice, and we found that the English was very difficult for our students to use. So we had used one questionnaire based on Royal College of Australia, Melbourne. So they have an educational experience survey. So based on that, we have developed our own questionnaire, and we use that to collect the exiting interns' educational experience survey. And also we do one residence experiential surveys. Postgraduate students, when they leave also we take. So that is one of the best practices what we have quoted as for our own NAC only. So
yes, ma'am. I distinctly remember, that initiative you shared with me that time.
Can I add something?
Yeah, ma'am.
Actually, feedback sessions should be, what I feel, should be closed with taking some commitment from the learner, that what he will do, what action, and by what time he will complete that particular action. That's what I feel.
You're right.
It is more successful then.
Now we can make use of the template which you use for the minutes, recording the minutes of the meeting. Minute number 1, action taken, person responsible. We can modify that template and give to the student when you give a feedback. And right, what is the feedback you have given, what you have listened, and what is the outcome, and who will be responsible. Yes, excellent.
That will be more effective. That's what I felt.
Okay, good.
So thank you for taking those.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now we'll move on to the next session. It's on stakeholders for us important, that is on national essay regarding students' presentation. This will be given in brief by Dr. Arun Dinian, who is also a member of MEU. Over to you, sir.
Very good evening, one and all. So we have listened to two eminent professors, in fact, teachers of teachers, talk about authentic learning environment and about student feedback. And it was a felt need that to understand the students' perspective about authentic learning. Hence, we had to we decided to conduct a national essay competition. As a part of the National Conference on Innovations in Health Professional Education, Authentic Learning Environment, Bridging the Theory-Practice Gap, we conducted a national essay contest for students in health sciences. It not only comprised of medical students, but also from the allied sciences, also from various parts of the country. The theme of the national essay competition was Authentic Learning for 21st Century Health Professionals Education. Explain the meaning and relevance of authentic learning to you as a student of 21st Century Health Professions Education. Why we needed this essay competition was globally health and well-being of all the people are vital importance for global peace and healthier world. We needed to transform the health professions education, keeping in mind the societal expectations and population needs. How do we go about it? So it is basically to bring into the views of the students what they expect out of the health professional learning environment. We distributed the guidelines for the essay competition, and we extended the date also for another week due to the overwhelming response from different parts of the country. We announced the first prize as rupees 5,000 and then followed by 3,000 and 2,000 for the second and third prizes. We had a great response from different parts of the country. We had very good participation from students all around the country. We received 64 essays on the whole, and majority of them from Pondicherry and Tamil Nadu, especially from Karaikal. And the second most important state which represented was Karnataka. And then we also had lots of representations from different northern and northeastern states also, and even one from outside the country also. So as we received 64 essays, we put them into a vigorous screening process. There was a guideline which was printed in the website, based on which, considering the word limit and the timing of submission, originality and relevance, the essays were narrowed down, and then they were subjected to a plagiarism check. And those essays which were crossing 20% mark in the plagiarism check were rejected, and we narrowed down to 20 essays which were sent to the judges. 3 eminent judges who are experts in the field of medical education unit underwent a vigorous process of selection based on the evaluation criteria like promptness, focus of the topic, organization and structuring of the essay, voice and originality, personal reflections of the student, and language quality as well. And then we selected 4 prizes. There was a tie in the first place, shared by 2 students, and then we had a second and third prize. The next 6 essays, which we found amusing for the publications, so we sent it to published in the conference proceedings. Now, the essence of conducting this national essay competition was to incorporate student ideas into this conference. So we thematically analyzed all the 64 essays, and there were 3 lead questions on which the thematic analysis was done. What is the relevance of authentic learning to the students? What does the term authentic learning mean to them? And what are the students' expectations regarding the authentic learning? And we got lots of sub themes for all these leading questions, like creativity, critical thinking in authentic learning, and societal needs and perspectives have to be addressed for the authentic learning relevance. And then students expected a lot of changes in content and process and technological integration in their curriculum. So these are the students who won the essay competition. The first prize was backed by the Srinidhi S. Sankruti, ESIC Medical College, Chennai. And the first prize was also shared by Mr. Arunan Annamalai, ESIC Medical College, Chennai again. The second prize was backed by Ms. Raima Sinha, Raipur Institute of Medical Sciences, Raipur. And the third prize was Ms. Vani Gai Saurav, Bharati Vidyapith Medical College, Pune. The people behind this rigorous screening process, we had 3 eminent judges to judge the contest. Dr. Meja Joshi, Director, MEU, International Medical School, Management and Science University, Bangalore Campus, India E-Library. Dr. Kavita Vasudevan, our well-known professor and HOD of Community Medicine, MEU Coordinator at IGMCRI, Puducherry. And Dr. Srinivas Pagatpalli, Professor and HOD, Pediatrics, MEU Coordinator, VMMC Karaikal. So now we are going to do a small recap by asking the students who have won in the contest to summarize their essays, which were selected for prizes, and they will be sharing their views in a very short 4-minute session. Now I call upon Ms. Srinidhi S. Sankruti to give her gist of her presentation.
Good evening, respected members of the conference. I'm Srinidhi S. Sankruti. I'm a first-year MBBS student studying in ESIC Medical College and PGIMSR Chennai. I'm highly thankful to the organizing committee to have provided me with a platform to present my essay. My essay is titled The Authentic Learning, the Emergency Treatment to Resuscitate Our Medical Education. Rishi struggled to keep himself awake. He could not resist his drooping eyes, triggered by the monotonous oration of his anatomy professor. He tried sincerely to maintain his consciousness levels by taking down notes, but in vain. Becoming a physician has always been Rishi's passion. As a child, his best aspirations could be described as him tactfully saving a patient's life from the clutches of death. However, he found it ironical that he no longer found no connect between the lectures he had to attend and his dream of saving lives. Did the session that he attended even hold any practical significance? When the ultimate goal of the healthcare sector is to provide the best care for patients, wasn't it odd that students were exposed to them only during the later periods of their training? Has the medical curriculum kept its pace with the rapid transformations in the society? Rishi's chain of thoughts were interrupted by his professor projecting his favorite slide, the one with a thank you. While Rishi's lecture has certainly come to an end, what about the outdated teaching techniques still propagated in our curriculum? Authentic learning is a new age concept that aims to overcome all these flaws in the existing system of imparting knowledge. It revolves around the central idea of exposing students to the application aspect of the concepts and then building a complex understanding, keeping this experience gained as a base. So this shifts the current focus from the passive theoretical learning to active experiential learning. This gains special significance in a field like medicine that commands expertise in practical skills. but what necessitates its emergency implementation. The idea of authentic learning is primarily important because of the real world applicability and adaptability it confers to the students. By performing a task like a CPR or a tracheostomy practically, we can understand the different nuances of the technique which cannot be obtained in mundane learning environments. As Albert Einstein has rightly stated, learning is experience. Everything else is just information. Ultimately, it is a practical knowledge that comes to our aid as physicians and not our theoretical proficiency. The second reason is enormous growth of theoretical content in the medical field recently. With this immense quantity of knowledge available, it becomes essential to extract out the areas of maximum significance in our practice and learn them well. Authentic learning inculcates patient exposure as an inalienable part of knowledge rendition. By visually realizing the applicability of the techniques, students tend to develop an inbuilt sense of motivation to excel. This enhances their cognitive skills and the sense of commitment they have to their profession and to their patients. The hands-on experience that the students gain will provide them with a forum from where they can learn from their mistakes and rectify them. While we were still teaching decades-old medical textbooks to the students, the society at large has undergone great reforms. Today, immense value is attached to the concepts of equality, equity, and dignity. However, our medical education system has failed to recognize the importance of imparting ethical knowledge and values. The consequent impact is that even today, a significant subset of our population, the LGBTQIA plus community, has not been adequately represented in any of our textbooks. The assaults and the mistreatments of them cannot be ignored despite them not making to the front pages of the newspapers. Such issues of lack of empathy can be resolved if physicians begin to consider patients as a human being instead of treating him like a biological machine which is currently dysfunctional. This understanding that medicine is patient-centered and not disease-centered can be inculcated if patients are exposed to the students at a much earlier stage of their learning. This is exactly what is achieved by authentic learning. It is easier to ignore the changing world and profess the same lectures like a narrow-minded frog trapped in a well. But reforming with time is what will help us maintain the sanctity of our field. The conservative thinking of a few decision makers and the cultural inertia has greatly slowed down the process of adopting authentic learning. Change is the only constant. The faster we accept the inherent flaws in our existing system, the sooner can we achieve the zenith. Authentic learning equips us with the techniques to achieve the same. As long as we fail to acknowledge the transformations happening in the healthcare sector and the society as a whole, we can never develop our students to fulfill our ultimate motive of achieving the best of patient care. Authentic learning is certainly the need of the hour to resuscitate our medical education standards. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Srinidhi. That was a wonderful essay which you have submitted, and we know that you are all capable of writing beautiful essays, but we would also like to see your faces when you present your essays, and we'll be happy enough to see all you and be happy enough to join with your videos. Okay, and I request the student participants to keep the time limit to 4 minutes as we are going behind time, and present only the gist of the presentations. And next, I would like to call Mr. Arun Annamalai from the same college, who has bagged the tie of the first prize, to present his gist of his essay. Arun, are you there? Yeah, Arun, I think you have to remove your... We are not able to hear you. No, I think you have to change your audio system.
We'll move to the next one and come back to him.
Yeah, by the time Arun is getting ready, we will go to Ms. Raima Sinha from Raipur Institute of Medical Sciences, Raipur, to share her essay as a small gist of 4 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, you're very much audible.
Good evening, everyone. I am Raima Sinha, student, first year medical student from DRIMS Raipur. I'm highly elated to present before you all the gist of my essay on authentic learning for 21st century health professions to education. In older times, access to public libraries, scientific communities, higher education from universities were a tough road to hoe. However, due to the advent of cheap and accessible internet and digital revolution, access to information, scientific communities, and higher education is at one's fingertip. The global pandemic has corroborated the power of technology on education. Even though the facts, information, and resources are easily accessible, why do there are increasing number of universities and colleges and soaring education fee all around the world? The simple answer is that we are shifting platonic from listening to doing. Due to emergence of technological tools such as interactive visualization and simulation technology, a more authentic learning based on experimentation and action can be provided. Albert Einstein quoted, "Education is not the learning of facts, but the training of mind to think." From the abstract idea, research translates that authentic learning cultivates portable skills that indulge judgment to distinguish reliable from unreliable information, patience to follow prolonged arguments, synthetic capacity to recognize relevant patterns in familiar contexts, and flexibility to work across cultural and disciplinary boundaries to innovate solutions. For example, during the pandemic scenario, our healthcare professionals limped the rumors spread amongst the personages about the deadly virus and the vaccine developed against it. The professionals are trained to take up follow-up appointments for the treatment of chronic illnesses such as diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, and cancer. In the past few decades, our professionals were able to identify deadly diseases like AIDS, Ebola, COVID. Some hurdles are placed in the way of doctors by prescribing protein sources that mainly includes animal products to some ethnic groups and religion. This is overcome by providing them with alternative vegetarian diets rich in protein. The next important question is what makes authentic learning effective? Research indicates that there are three major principles. First principle revolves around the necessity of connection. When humans are introduced to a subject or a concept, we need to discern the relevance of the subject to our experience. This translates that when a new piece of knowledge will be rejected if it doesn't fit to our existing knowledge scheme. Consequently, the best way to encourage efficient learning is the investment in material and personal learning. For example, internship of medical professionals enhance the interaction with real patients and experienced health professionals. The second principle revolves around the famous saying that practice makes a man perfect. Research shows that long-lived attachment comes with practice. To avoid shattering the attachment and losing information, concept is required to be aired regularly, guarded against attack associated with unprecedented setting and audience. Lastly, the abstract ideas assimilated by students are a part of much broader learning event. Continuous exposure to new contexts can be elemental for authentic learning. In health professional learning, review of latest research articles, guest lecture by experts practicing professionals can provide exposure to novel contents. Researchers have aggregated some design elements that can be adopted for authentic learning experience. First, learning should match the real-world tasks of professional and practice. Second, there are new challenges due to rapid increment in technology. Health activities and assessment which are relatively undefined can motivate the student to think about multiple interpretations. Real-world problems cannot be solved in a matter of minutes, and therefore, the third principle is based on the quality of sustained and persistent investigation. Fourth, the student should be exposed to multiple perspectives and resources that allow the learners to experiment with variety of theoretical and practical perspective. The next two monumental elements are collaboration and meta-recognition, also known as reflection. Since the aim in health practice are generally achieved in teams, which enables individuals to make choices and reflect on their learning, the seventh element of authentic learning is based on leveraging the creative brain, which is interdisciplinary perspective. Encouraging students to take diverse roles and think in interdisciplinary realms can bring innovative solutions to real-world problems. The next element of authentic learning is integrated assessment. Since it culminates in the development of a product or an outcome valuable in its own right. Etienne Wenger and Jean Lave stated, all would be scientists, mathematicians, engineers, and historians need to be encultured into the discipline, and the earlier, the better. The statement cannot be more apt on health professional student. According to me, as a healthcare professional student, the overarching aim of authentic learning is to provide confidence to be recognized as legitimate peripheral participants in the medical or health community. In the last 2 years, we have seen complexities and ill definitions of real-world problems. Due to global pandemic, health professionals around the world is faced with an unprecedented difficult situation. The greater exposure of health professional students to authentic learning will prepare future generations to deal with ambiguity and practice the kind of higher order analysis and complex communication, consequently preparing us for a better healthcare and thus a bright future. Thank you.
As bold as the voice and confident the commands come out of her mouth, as our veteran medical educationist, Dr. Vishnu sir, put in the chat box, the enthusiasm is kept on. And as a reader of all the essays, Dr. V.N. Mahalakshmi madam has put in the chat box that medicine is in good hands in future. So thank you, doctor. Thank you for the essays. Now we have 4 more people who have read all the essays, taking their time patiently and waiting to deliver their comments on the essays. We have the judges of the essay competition, Dr. Medha Joshi, Dr. Kavita Vasudevan, Dr. Srinivas, waiting to give and share their experience of reading these enthusiastic essays. And first I call upon Dr. Medha Joshi, Madam Director of Medical Education, International Medical School, Bangalore Campus, India E-Library, to deliver her views on the essays. Thank you, ma'am. Over to you. Ma'am, you have to unmute.
Okay, sorry.
Yes, ma'am. Now you're audible.
Yeah, thank you very much. At the onset, I would like to thank Dr. Mahalakshmi for giving me this opportunity to read such interesting views of our students. And as rightly pointed out by Dr. Mahalakshmi, I'm happy to read all of them with diverse opinions and ideas, and to say that our health professions education is in good hands. Health is also in good hands, and health profession, I'm sure some of them are going to be teachers, excellent teachers in future. The ideas, the diversity of the ideas that is what I read struck me immensely. No, starting from social accountability to hands-on experience to giving us ideas about the authenticity, exposing them to the student, right from day one. Everybody, all the students agree that they want to change in the way they are being taught, and it's a very direct what should we say, a direct message to all of us that we should start thinking differently. We need to take into account their opinions, and I really appreciate your institutions for arranging this essay competition and letting the voices of one of our, the major stakeholders of our educational system to be heard. Otherwise, we keep talking and we rarely give them a chance to voice their opinions, which are heard by the educationists themselves. So I'm really happy, and congratulations to all of them and all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for sharing your views, and we are very grateful to you for reading through patiently all the essays and giving your comments and opinion. Now, I call upon Dr. Kavita Vasudevan, Professor and HOD of Department of Community Medicine, IGMCRA, and the MU coordinator of the institution. Madam is waiting from yesterday to give her opinions. She is very happy to deliver the comments because I know that she encourages lots of kids in her medical school also to participate boldly and express their views. Ma'am, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Arun. Good evening to all the participants and all the persons who are right now listening to this conference. At the outset, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. Thank you so much, Dr. Mahalakshmi ma'am and her team. Like Dr. Medha said, I would be repeating her words that students are a major stakeholders and they are often unheard. So this is a very good endeavor on your part to ensure that they get an opportunity to voice their opinions. And when I was going through the 20 odd essays which was shared with me, I was pleasantly amazed by their understanding of authentic learning. I realized that they are learning not just from the books, but they are learning more from what they do outside the lecture hall, maybe bedside or during the clinics or during practicals or even when they're speaking to each other. So many of their learning is actually happening in real world and not exactly within the four walls of the lecture. And we as teachers need to move away from that and make it more real and authentic for them. The most interesting part of their essays, which I found, was when they shared their experience, an incident that happened in their lives or somebody else. And not just the sharing of the incident, it's also about how they reflected on that, how they learned from their experience. That was very important. Reflections, as we all would agree, is very important for learning. So that was very nice. And I think many of these participants expressed their reflections on their experiences that they have gained through their essays. Then another point I just wanted to say was to the participants that it doesn't matter if your essay hasn't come up in the first 3 or 20 or essays, but what matters is your participation, because I'm sure in the process of participation, you would have read some things, you would have thought of so many things, and that itself would have enriched your learning, your understanding about the curriculum and the authentic methods of learning. And most of the students have also expressed the need to use technology more effectively, collaborate, integrate. That was a few of the points that came out in the essay. So to conclude, thank you to the organizers, and very well done to the student participants, and best wishes for the rest of the conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for sharing your reflections. And we are very grateful for your contribution towards selecting these essays. And now I call upon Dr. Srinivas, Professor and HOD of Pediatrics and MU Coordinator, VMMC Karaikal, to share his views and reflections. Sir, over to you.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for conducting such a beautiful conference and giving me an opportunity to judge these wonderful essays. And as Mahalakshmi Madam had said, we are in safe hands. That was the impression I got from the 20 odd essays that I have judged. And most of these children, they seem to have the idea about what CBME is all about, what the NMC has endeavored. I think it is the need of the day, because all these children, most of them, they wanted something, skills which they are able to use rather than just doing rote learning. And many of these students, they gave their own beautiful examples from their own lives, their own reflections, and their need to be more skill oriented rather than being just knowledge oriented. And they want the education to be now learner centered rather than being the teacher centered. And once again, congratulations to all the participants who have done these essays, and congratulations to the top 2, 3 or 4 members who have got and thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for those nice words. And to mention, special mention about those 2 people who have worked hard in analyzing all the essays. I mean, gone through almost 70 and odd essays. Dr. Manju, from Professor of Biochemistry from AVMC, and Dr. V.N. Mahalakshmi Madam, our Dean HP. They have gone through the essays on the whole, and I would like to invite V.N. Mahalakshmi Ma'am to kindly share her closing remarks on this, and also give a small view about the thematic analysis. What we did. Thank you.
Oh, okay, that's a googly. Thank you very much. Actually, when we read, most of it has been expressed. What was striking was the originality and the personal reflections what they had brought about. But what I would like to focus on is about the technology integration. And it is not just any technology integration they want. They want meaningful integration of technology. So what I have done is I have taken some of the ideas they have put, and I'm going to link it to my talk tomorrow. So you need to wait till tomorrow for taking that thing further. So how this, what they have expressed. The other thing which I have liked is that the process of teaching, that is what they do not only want a revision of content, they want authenticity in which the way in which the CBME is implemented. Plus, they are also asking for change in content. They want the content also to keep up and the process of teaching also to keep up with their demands. I think we need to really work for to put whatever is their expectations from us. We need to live up to their expectations. They have put a lot of that is given us a lot of burden to handle. So that is what I would say, and more about technology integration in my talk tomorrow. Thank you, Arun.
Thank you very much, ma'am. And that brings us close to the end of today's session. And I would like to thank all the eminent speakers, those chief guests in the inauguration program, and all the judges of the essay competition and all the students who have participated, especially all the participants who have engaged for almost 3 hours now in this program. And we are happy to invite you for tomorrow. And we'll be starting sharp at 9 a.m. tomorrow. The conference will start with a talk by Dr. V.N. Mahalakshmi ma'am. And we have lots of interesting sessions tomorrow. And I hope that you will not miss that. And we'll be having the free paper sessions also tomorrow. And the halls and the links for the Zoom for the different halls have already been sent to your mail. So catch you all soon tomorrow and keep the learning experience alive. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Are we closing this meeting?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll see you all tomorrow, 8:45.